to a minimum.
Okay.
There's a 5 4-letter word maximum, and I've already used 4 of them. So.
Okay. So I think I'll work on getting some visuals presented to you guys, because this can become convoluted very quickly with the handoff between different entities and different departments. And so I just came back from vacation, so I apologize. I'm not super prepared.
We didn't give you a lot of time, so that's our fault.
But I can prepare some documentation afterwards for you guys to visually see it. If you're anything like me, nothing really makes sense until I see it visually. And it could be a great tool for you guys when you're trying to explain certain processes to the lenders coming on. So to just kind of get into just hopping right in with some of the main problems that you guys are probably seeing complaints from the lenders and the originators is with turnaround time, for how long it's taking for loans to get purchased. And right now we are in a transition period between loans being purchased through United Security Financial to Mountain West Financial. And so anytime that really when we start talking about funding, that is after the loan has closed at the table and it's funded from the lender perspective, and then we're trying to purchase it. And so there are certain requirements that we have on the lender that they need to fulfill for us to purchase the loan. So there's a couple entities involved with purchasing a loan, and I'm just going to put it in layman terms for those as if you haven't worked in this fully. But so we have the title and the originator, right? And so the originator, we work with them depending if it's on EEP or DPA or white label. The process is run differently. But particularly with EEP, we work with the lender to close the loan, even from an underwriting standpoint. The loan is closed at the table, and then it is shipped to a warehouse bank, or it goes directly from title to Southstar. And Southstar is considered our custodian, and they hold the collateral. It's under something.
I'm just pointing up there. Yeah. Remember, the Southstar's up there. Go ahead.
And it's under something known as a bailment letter. You'll often hear it referred to as the Bailey letter. And so this gives instructions, and it's kind of a legal agreement that the collateral is delivered and then funds are dispersed for the loan. And there are certain requirements. So there are some bailment letters that are called reverse Bailey letters. And so it's, hey, we send money first and then you send the collateral. A traditional Bailey letter is that we send collateral and then you send money, right?
Okay, so my wife, you guys, chatter less. I keep picking up you talking, so I love you. Go outside on the veranda and talk. Yeah, you too. That's point number 1. I love you. I'm not trying to be mean to you. Go outside.
Well, it's a good thing you love.
Or you can go in here and talk, and we won't be able to hear you. Okay, thank you. Sorry, because I could hear you the whole time, but I want to hear this. And do you have examples of bailment or Bailey letters that you can provide to us?
Yes, so I can provide
perfect.
samples.
Go ahead.
And so this bailment letter is pretty much a legal agreement, right, for where the collateral is going to be sent, who's responsible for sending funds, and it also gives you wire instructions for the entity. So if I'm wanting to purchase the loan, then I can see, hey, this is where I need to send the money for us to purchase it. And then it can also add any parties that had vested interest in it. So typically what happens is when a loan is purchased, we're not actually purchasing it. Arrive Home does not purchase it. It's under a warehouse line. So Southstar, they act right now as, and this is from the United Security Financial perspective, because they purchase most of our loans and they securitize the first mortgage. And so this is where it gets very convoluted quickly if you're not looking at all the entities involved in how we purchase those loans. We're now, as you might be aware, we have Mountain West Financial, which we have our Ginnie Mae ticket. So we're actually able to purchase the first mortgage through that, and then we'll be able to securitize it through our Ginnie Mae ticket as well. So everything will be streamlined through our Mountain West Financial entity.
So when that happens, there won't be a custodian, is that correct?
Well, there'll always be a custodian.
Okay, so they always have to stay there first.
Yes, so there'll always be a custodian and there'll always be a warehouse line. You typically, in the mortgage industry, have one custodian and multiple warehouse lines. However, the bigger the mortgage lender, you might have multiple of custodians, because the more warehouse banks you have, they might have a specific custodian. So, and then we're kind of getting the weeds in this, But the way that it works is, since we haven't been approved by really any other warehouse line yet, which we're working on, we have Southstar, and they want to have full control of the collateral. And so they are the custodian and the warehouse line, which is interesting. But that doesn't give us a lot of autonomy on how fast our turn rate is, because they have full control over the process. So what the end game is for us is that we have Mountain West Financial plugged in. We not only have one warehouse line, Southstar, we have multiple warehouse lines, and then we have a separate custodian. So we don't have to wait on Southstar. We have full control of the collateral going to our custodian. It's under bailment letter for the vested interest of the warehouse line that's purchasing it. That loan, after it's purchased from Southstar, goes and it's securitized, and then from the proceeds from the security, we pay off Southstar, and then we make a percentage off the sale. So depending on how the market is, like in the heyday of the refi, I could be wrong on this, but we were getting like 13% back when we would securitize of the total transaction. So depending on where the market is, I've seen up 6%, so it would be 106% up to like 116%, which is like the biggest I've seen. So that's a very basic understanding of how the loan is funded and how we pay off the warehouse lines. But where we get into where you guys really care about it is people are saying, hey, you haven't purchased our loan yet. And what do we need to happen to get this purchased? And let's use an EEP loan, for instance. So it closes at the table. Those funds, they have a warehouse line, the originator. They are getting interest every day on that loan. And so they're going to be pushing on you and saying, okay, we have money, we're getting interest on this loan from our warehouse line. And so from an operational standpoint, what that's required is that we need, the biggest holdup right now is the bailment letter and the note. So they need to send the bailment letter and the note, and it'll be the second note as well. They need to go to a custodian. And then in this instance, it's Southstar. Once we get confirmation that Southstar has the note, assuming that they have prepared everything for the funding package, right? So we have every single item that's listed in the investor delivery package is delivered, we should be clear to fund the loan. But a lot of times what's happening is that the loan closes, it goes on the originator's warehouse line, and then we're still saying, hey, we don't have a copy of the deed of trust, or we don't have a copy of the memorandum. So there's just certain things that are on them that we're waiting to get back. But in theory, as soon as we have all the conditions met in the investor delivery package and collateral is shipped to Southstar, we can fund the loan. So that's really, in layman terms, what it is. But obviously we get more nuance because you look at different program types. DPA, it's going to be a little different because the loan is already closed, where as soon as the loan closes, they deliver the loan to us. With EEP, the loan, we work with them, and they're delivering documents to us far before the loan is closed. So anyways, that's kind of the basic idea here. And I don't want to get too in the weeds here because we can get lost very quickly. But it's from a sales perspective, Shawn, where do you really want to, what are the pain points?
I just want to really understand Baileys, because I know they hold up stuff all the time. And so any examples of Baileys you can give us and the specific arrangements with that. Obviously, I like the relationship between custodian and warehouse lines. That we could have one custodian, multiple warehouse lines, and they need to understand that custodian. We never fund without collateral being shipped to the custodian, right? Okay, and then allonges. Do you deal with the allonge at all? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about allonges.
So allonges are a paper trail for who owns the loan. So on a note, if I were to say, hey, this note is owned by Matt, and now this note is going to be owned by Shawn, right? That's a simplification of it. But you have wording on there called an endorsement that is going to have the legal language for me to transfer that over to Shawn. And so on the endorsement, when it's sent, it has to have very specific language on it. And if I don't properly name the entity, the purchasing, so it's Shawn Incorporated, LLC, whatever. I said an Inc. LLC, that doesn't make sense. But if I don't have it word for word, letter by letter, and I'm missing punctuation, even if I'm missing a period on it, they won't purchase it. They'll say this is an invalid endorsement. And so things can get very complicated where you have people that are handwriting in these endorsements and they miss a letter or they miss a punctuation, they miss a comma. And then the purchasing entity will say this is not a valid endorsement. And then we have to have the originator send another endorsement that is wet signed by someone that's an eligible signer on their side. So let's say we have everything ready, we have the collateral there, but we're missing an endorsement. Then we have to wait a day or two. We have to communicate to the originator, hey, you didn't put the endorsement on here, or someone in between accidentally messed up the endorsement. Now we have to get another one shipped. The gold standard of what happens is that the custodian, you give them rights to be able to have a stamp. And so you tell the originator, send it blank. Then when the custodian gets it, they stamp it under Mountain West Financial or Arrive Homes authority, and it's perfect, right? But the thing where it gets complicated is, so in this transaction, I need a endorsement from City Lending to Arrive Home. And then I need an Arrive Home endorsement that's blank, but it's used for Jenny Mae. And so if any one of those, so we could have multiple endorsements involved, and we each need that they can either be on the note, and this is where it gets complicated, because you can have an endorsement on a note, or typically it's on an allonge, which is a separate piece of paper. So there's multiple ways that you can transfer that ownership. So that's one of the biggest things that we see is everything's perfect, but hey, the endorsement on the allonge is messed up. And so we have to go back to the originator. So
an allonge is just a way of lengthening out the space for endorsements, right? Because you can endorse on the note and take care of it without having an allonge, theoretically.
It depends.
But most of the time, people do an allonge, and that allonge contains the data of who the note's transferring to or whatever.
Yeah, and typically people avoid it. That's an old school way of doing it on the actual note. And the reason for that is if you do something wrong on the note, you can invalidate the note. And so people prefer to put it on the actual allonge, because if you mess up an allonge, I can scrap it, I can throw it away. But if you mess it up on the note, you gotta get really, there's a very technical way that you can fix it. You might not always be able to, and so then you have to send it back to the borrower. And you have to get the borrower involved to re-sign the note, and it just turns into a big mess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like they might have closed on it last month. They've been living in their house for 3 weeks, and then they're like, "Hey, we need you to re-sign the note." And they're like, "What the heck is going on?"
It'd be amazing if we could see copies of allonges and stuff too, and help us understand what's blank, what's wet signed, what's all that stuff in the language specifically. This is wet signed, this is blank, this is what it means, because it says on here, allonge endorsement blank right there under collateral.
Yeah.
Right?
So
wet or stamped is okay. Originals only for allonge endorsement blank. And so if you can help us understand this is what that means, I think that would be good for them. We can put that in kind of a bank.
Yeah. What I think I'll
documents.
prepare documents for a little training package that you can see. This is the bailment letter. This is an allonge. This is what it looks like, and this is how it needs to be transferred. This is really basic stuff, and you can make it extremely complicated, but we don't need to.
Yeah.
I think the only other item that I think is important to understand is the struggles we're having with the bailment letter with Southstar. And so right now, Southstar is the custodian, and they don't want to scan the bailment letter, which causes a big problem. Industry standard is that if I want someone to purchase a loan, I send to their custodian the bailment letter and the note, and they're going to scan it and look at it and say, hey, this is good to purchase. But Southstar, as an entity, they say, we don't want to scan it. We expect you to ask title or the seller to provide it to you, which is backwards. And so now everyone's saying, oh, well, it's your responsibility to get the Bailey letter. It's your responsibility to get the Bailey letter. And then at the end of the day, no one has a Bailey letter, even though Southstar has it in hand. They don't want to scan it so that we can get it. And they're saying, you need to give us the information for the Bailey letter, because it's how we know how to send the money. It has the wire instructions. So we say, we don't have it, you have it. And they say, well, you need to put it in WLS. I'm like, well, can you scan it so we can get the information to put it in the system? And that's our main problem. And the fix for that is for us to have a custodian. So Wilmington Trust is our current custodian. And if we get them plugged in, then they'll just scan the Bailey letter. We have a scan of it. We put it into their WLS, which is warehouse loan system. Yeah. And so that's like, it's such a silly thing that because someone doesn't scan a document, we can't fund a loan. And so that's one of our biggest problems that we have. And I had petitioned Billy, who's over Southstar today, to tell him, hey, I've been trying to resolve this, but from for instance, Shawn's perspective, don't you think it would be silly to go to the originator and say, can you send us a scan of the Bailey letter?
Yeah, it'd be stupid.
And they'd say, we're sending it to you. We're not going to send you a scan.
No, it's stupid. Southstar just needs to pull their heads out, but they're not going to, so I get it.
Yeah.
And we love them because they've made concessions for us and they got us kind of rolling. But eventually we'll get our big boy pants on. We can work with a real custodian, a real warehouse line.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, if you could prepare that stuff for us and then give us examples, that would be amazing. We could roll through them that way. We'll understand it better.
So are the turn times a little slow right now, or are there lenders who are complaining? Or
Well, the biggest complaint that I've had right now is the Bailey letters, because people are saying, because we'll say, hey, we don't have the Bailey letter, can you help us out? And they're like, we sent it to you. And we say, we know, but our custodian won't scan it. And so it's our problem that we're trying to.
Can they upload it to us?
They can, but the main thing that's an issue is that depending on the lender, they might only have it, the last person that touches it is title, and then they send it to Southstar.
Yeah.
And so they're saying, so then we talk to title, and title says, no way, we're not scanning the Bailey letter, we're sending it to you.
Yeah, right.
And then we talk to a warehouse bank so that it can go from title to the warehouse bank. And the warehouse bank says, no, we're not doing that. So that's pretty much been my response from everyone. They say, you're annoying, no one does that, we're not doing that for you.
Yeah, and all because of Southstar. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So but the main thing is the solution that I've tried to say is, hey, Billy, we'll pay to contract someone to be in-house for you that will process the Bailey letter just so we can get a scan. So because we can turn it around quickly in that case. So
tell me about reverse Baileys. So reverse Baileys, it seems like that's a more secure funding process than a normal Bailey. What's the difference between the two, reverse Bailey versus normal Bailey?
So if I have a traditional bailment letter, people say, show me the documentation and I'll give you the money, right?
Okay.
So Shawn's not gonna give you the money until I hand him the paper. And then I say, hey, under contract, the reverse Bailey is under contract. Hey, I'm gonna, you send me money and in 7 days, I'm gonna give you the collateral. And that's the main difference, is that it just, both of them are under legal contract, but it just dictates when collateral is received versus when the money is received.
So reverse Bailey is less restrictive.
Yes. But the issue is not all warehouse lines like it, because most people want the money up front. That's going to be, generally speaking, if you're doing any deal, like if you're going to go on Craigslist, you don't want to say, hey, I'm going to give you my goods and then I expect you to send me money, so that's kind of the way that it typically.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on how comfortable the warehouse line is with reverse Bailey. So like Southstar, we had to petition them pretty hard to get Geo for them to accept, where all the other lines, they said, we don't do reverse bailment letters.
Yeah, so this is going to be really important, you guys, as Mountain West becomes more and more of a thing. Like our next year is going to be moving people from USF to Mountain West, right? And it's going to be a pride-swallowing siege until we get a decent custodian and all this stuff to get it figured out.
Yeah.
So this training right here is probably, some of the most valuable stuff you're going to get.
And I will say, like, this is like really dry, but the implication has high value. And from a sales perspective, how I would explain, people say, why do I want to switch over to Mountain West Financial, right? That's going to be the question. Why would I want to do that? And from an EEP's perspective, the main thing is every day that we're not able to fund the loan for you, you acquire interest. We can make this program a lot more profitable for you because we're going to be able to essentially cut our turn times in half in Mountain West Financial. We're not able to deliver on that yet because we don't have the custodian, but if we have the custodian in place, then we're not in a chokehold by Southstar, which is controlling the whole process.
Right.
So you guys make more money, we make more money, your LOs are a lot more motivated to sell the product. Not only that, but a lot of the lenders, they have a very restricted warehouse line. So since this product type, aren't a lot of warehouse lines that will give a big line. So, you're in the industry, you can see anywhere from a $5 million line to $100 million or more. And for EEP, the biggest one I've seen is $10 million. I don't know if you've seen any bigger than that, but so the biggest point that I get for friction is people are saying, we want to do more EEP loans, but we can't because our warehouse line is maxed out. And so if we're able to turn it around and be able to say, give them their money sooner, then they're able to give us more loans.
Right.
So they're able to do way more products with us, and it becomes way more cheaper for them as well. It's more profitable. So that's, as far as what you guys are concerned, that's the main takeaway from today, is moving over people from Mountain West Financial. When we get the custodian figured out, we get the bailment situation figured out, this program becomes much more profitable for everybody involved.
When we talk about product, we typically think of like our credit box and our pricing and all these things as the reasons why people would come over, but sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes it's the relationship in the back end with the warehouse line. when I did an old school down payment assistance, Countrywide was probably the biggest purchaser of builder notes, right? So they did a lot of the builder business. And our company, Neighborhood Gold, remember that name, Neighborhood Gold, could not work with Countrywide. We weren't approved with Countrywide. So it didn't matter what pricing we gave and how we made our program better doing down payment assistance. If they made more money by selling to Countrywide as a builder, then they would never work with us. And so it locked us out of all of that business in those areas. And it was incredibly frustrating. You just beat your head against the wall and realize it's a Countrywide investor and you couldn't do a freaking thing about it, right? And so that's part of the critical path. It's part of the rules of engagement we talk about. But this is a big part of it. We got to make sure that we have flexibility in our warehouse stuff so we can get maximum market share. So, okay. Any other points you want to make?
No, yeah, it's I know it's the end of the day. You guys had some Cafe Rio, right? Costa Vida, sorry, Costa Vida.
Costa Vida.
And that's hard to stay awake at the end of the day, but I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
And I'll follow up with Bailey letters and allonges for you guys to view so you can better understand.
It would be a little easier to see it.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could see it.
Yeah, and I think it also would be helpful for me to show you a process flow. This is how the collateral moves, and everybody that holds it. So when people ask you, hey, what's going on? And you can follow up with a team, it'll actually start sounding like English to you.
That
right?
would be amazing if you could do that. There's a little bit of that in our training, but not enough. So that'd be great.
Okay.
Awesome. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, guys.